This week we watched Him, directed by Justin Tipping.
It's just more a style over substance to me. It's visually aesthetically amazing. A lot of the shots of when they're hit, or when they're, especially particularly at the end when the two of them are fighting, or when he's in the scrimmage with the walk-ons and whatnot. That remind me of Blitz League. Well, this whole fucking concept reminds me of Blitz League, honestly. Corruption and drug addiction from NFL, or not NFL, or a major football organization with particularly one of the teams. And then, of course, the scenes where they tackle each other kind of does the little X-ray vision thing of the injuries and stuff like that. All in all, I found the story fairly lacking. It doesn't get into the horror, the bigger horror, like him getting, like, one of the players getting bludgeoned to the head with a football. It's kind of off kilter, but the horror stuff doesn't really pick up until the end of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like the first half of the movie felt interesting, I guess because we're assuming it's gonna go somewhere. But then the second half kind of falls apart for me. I
Mhm.
didn't really understand what was going on in terms of like what they were trying to say. Like with all of this stuff, like it was kind of entertaining to watch some of it, and some of it was really funny. Um, I love the cinematography. I thought that was fantastic. And I love the music. I thought that was great. And the sound design. And I really loved Marlon Wayne's performance. I feel like this is one of his like best performances. Like he was really good in this. And like I haven't seen him in a while. So it was nice to see him here doing like something slightly more dramatic. But other than that, I felt like when I watched the trailers, I thought that there were some themes that this movie would pick up on.
Mhm.
Uh, not only just football, but like the religious culture that is football, like American football, and like what that means to people, like for athletes, for the people who are like managing, like all of the business corporate side of it. I thought they were going to dig into that a little bit more. I thought they were going to talk about like hyper-masculinity a lot more than they really did in this. I thought that they were going to play around with like the race element of it too. And like maybe if you're looking really hard, you can find some like crumbs of like what they were trying to say in this. And you can kind of make up your own conclusions to like some of the themes that they brought up, but it really isn't going to give you much. And that's sort of disappointing because I just felt like the setup for this movie was really interesting. And I just don't think it like fully delivered on anything that they were trying to, you know, explore. So kind of feels like a waste a little bit.
I mean, yeah, this movie is mostly about hypermasculinity and the altar and worship of football. The whole, like, I think the trainer, not a trainer, the sports therapist or sports scientist doctor that he has alludes to that, like American football is just is the evolution of, the Roman gladiatorial arena. Every Sunday, like, and it's not hard to miss. Like, look at how NFL arenas look. It's like a giant circle where you watch. Like, we've seen people die on the field, people get carted off in ambulances and stuff like that. Players put their body on the line, and like 5, 10 years later, they get CTE and like either commit suicide from other stuff. So that connection, that through line is shown in the movie. But a lot of the other elements, they do also pick up on the fanatical worship of the players. Like, we see the fans come through. Like, one of the girls breaks into his house and threatens to kill him because she doesn't want him to be replaced.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is like saying, "Oh, this is a movie about X thing."
Mhm.
But then it doesn't really say anything about those things. So when I say it's not like they tried to get into the hypermasculinity thing, it was only in terms of like performative, like this is what, you know, is maybe driving the character at first. Maybe
Mhm.
this is what the Isaiah White character really feels is important. But like in terms of like deconstructing that or like having some type of arc around it, it doesn't really feel like there is one because they don't seem to, it kind of seems like there's contradicting narratives. It's like if we're saying that hypermasculinity is a bad thing, then then how does that resolve itself in the end when he just ends up murdering everyone?
Yeah.
Violence. if we're saying that hypermasculinity is a bad thing in terms of treatment of women, okay, he has a girlfriend, but then he's like in that, I don't know, eyes wide shut scene, what I don't know what that was, surrounded by a bunch of naked girls partying. Like, so it's like you're saying that if you're trying to say that one of these things is bad, you're not really committing to like actually delivering on that message because
Hmm.
you're kind of cutting it with inserting the thing that you're critiquing basically and just
Mm.
like saying, no, it's okay in this scene because aesthetically we want it to look a certain way. Like when I was watching it, I was like, this kind of feels like a music video. Like they're very quick cuts,
Yes, very stylistic. Yeah.
stylistic, like the way the camera is moving, all the stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, that's fun in the beginning because you're like getting invested in the world. But I think in terms of like the cult aspect of it, when the horror elements are starting to like come in, it doesn't really it doesn't really do anything because again, like there's not like a message that's really trying to be sent.
Mm.
Like if you're saying, okay, well, the corporate overlords of this game is are bad, and the answer to that is just kill them, I guess, and then everything is fine. Like I don't know. I feel like I don't know what else you could do because it's like supposed to be a horror movie about this sport. So it's like maybe that was the only answer to that. But I just feel like there was so much to deconstruct within this that it feels like, and like the horror element is like an interesting way to
Yeah.
explore this, but it just doesn't land.
And the horror elements in it are weak.
Yeah, they're not really
It's
horror.
like it's like
It's not.
like I don't think the physical act of like okay the thing where the guy like gets hit with the football over and over. I don't think that's horror. That's off-putting and disturbing. You know,
Hmm.
the scene where one of the fans attacks someone who's in the sauna, once it's more of a jump scare to me because she pops out of nowhere. You
Hmm.
know, those scenes where of course this football player is being hidden and he like mans up and knocks guy out. You know, that's just the sport of football, not horror to me like the horror element like and then the end where the only horror thing that really comes up is the end where they're at the party and we only see it through cuts because he doesn't witness it is where Julia Fox who why do they keep casting her in movies she can't act for shit and she looks like an alien so if you want to cast her in a movie cast Julia Fox in the Aliens movie or you know some sci-fi thing and she doesn't have to wear makeup she can just show up as herself and she'll be perfect for that but um the only real horror thing we see is the his the medical guy getting his head chopped off. We don't really see it. All we see is Julia like swipe at the camera, and then Cam goes and picks up the mask, and the guy's head's there. You know, and honestly, after that is just the fight between Cam and Isaiah at the end, and then Cam slaughtering everybody. And but he leads the cheerleaders and everybody else alive who are also witnesses to this whole charade. So yeah, there are no real horror elements in this thing to consider a horror movie per se.
The premise was supposed to be like, okay, football is everything, and you have to sacrifice everything to, in order to be great at this sport, right? But and then you had like the GOAT also having like a double meaning of being the greatest of all time, but also GOAT in terms of,
Horn,
satanic
Satanic Devil, yeah.
worship. And so, like, if we're gonna do that, where it's like the sacrifice is like, okay, people are dying here. I feel like it should have landed more. So, like in that scene where the guy is like getting pelted with those footballs and he ends up dying,
Mhm.
there wasn't enough reaction to that to make me even feel kind of weird because no one in the scene cared that much that this dude died right in front of them.
Not even the main character who's supposed to be put off by it.
And that was another issue I had with him. He was not giving me enough of anything for me to be convinced of anything, to be honest. He was just kind of like passively witnessing all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, so am I supposed to feel some type of way? You don't seem like you care.
Yeah. And that's
Like,
why the horror things do not land because
right.
the character is just like whatever. You know, he's not questioning the situation he's in.
Even if this was supposed to be a cult movie, I feel like at least in the beginning, you have to start asking questions. Like, for example, in Midsommar, the character that Florence Pugh plays is asking questions as things go on. She is truly horrified at the things that she sees, and it's kind of being coaxed and drugged into like accepting her place in this cult.
Yeah.
Like that is where things should have gone.
You see
Like
her character break down
you
mentally.
see them, you see them manipulate her and break her down until she is like in this cult. And I think is like in this movie, they had the doctor, the medical doctor, shoot him up with stuff. He doesn't ask any questions. Like, what is this that you're shooting me up with? Like, he just like they're drugging him. He doesn't remember stuff. He feels like he's having like a mental break. They cut off his communication with outsiders. Like, there should have been a slow descent into this, but instead, it was just like he was kind of complicit because he was just kind of hanging around doing the same things
Mhm.
that Isaiah White was doing. And then at the end, he decides, actually, I don't like this. And then he kills everyone.
Yeah,
So it just doesn't even work as like a cult horror movie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
it's like they didn't know what kind of movie they wanted to make. That's kind of what it feels like. I feel like they were trying to do the Jordan Peele thing where you would have like social commentary within the horror genre. But I just don't, because they're not Jordan Peele, like they can't actually,
They
like,
can't connect on it.
they can't do it.
Like you said, trying to copy that Jordan Peele, Donald Glover, surrealist horror slash comedy thing in a way, and not knowing how to effectively execute on those ideas. The budget was almost 30 million and it's made about 14 million in box office. It might break even, but then for to break even, you have to probably make another. You'd have to to actually make money. You'd probably have to also break even and then another 30 million. So it'd have to make at least 90 million to break even almost. And I don't see that happening. It's probably going to end up with a theatrical run at what about I guess about 25, 24 million.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, when I was in the theater, there was only one other person there, so
Yeah.
that wasn't a good sign. So
I
yeah,
mean, here's the thing. On the plus side, the marketing for it was well. We were constantly attenuated about it, but then again, the marketing kind of also said this is a Jordan Peele project, which kind of lets you think it's a Jordan Peele movie,
right.
and then when you go, it's like, oh, this is not a Jordan Peele movie,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah. So I don't know if I would recommend this one.
no,
There were some good ideas in it. There were some good things in it, but it overall just didn't
yeah.
land.
Did you like that clip? Well, you can listen to the entire podcast because the 16 millimeter Film Crew podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. Did you like that clip? Well, you can listen to the entire podcast because the 16 millimeter Film Crew podcast is available on all major podcast platforms.